Wow. Thank you guys so much for waiting. It's good to see everybody. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. It's been interesting in the YouTube world, to say the least, but outside of the YouTube world, I had a very pleasant Christmas, and I hope everyone else did as well. Let me say hello to everybody, all the pretty bling things. That girl, Perfectly Imperfect, Gajoline, Mrs. R&B, Peace, Love, Smiles, Sandra Martinez, Jennifer Eggleston, Gossier Mas. Yes, good vibes, Gossier Mas. Good vibes. I hope I'm saying your name right, because I like saying it that way. I'm not even trying to lie. Dani, ¿cómo estás? Miamed, Rosaleng, Kimberly Rose. Okay. There's a lot of people in here already, man. So I'm going to get to it. Thank you, Mimster. I did have a good holiday. Lyrics is in the house. Good to see you, girl. Okay. So I'm going to get into a couple things before I bring my man SyronJAG on. He actually did some very, very extensive research on S.A.N.E exams and how they are conducted in the area in question, in the long case. So I thought it was, well, it wasn't me who came up with the idea. SyronJAG came to me and he said, hey, I did a little research here. And I was like, okay. And I realized that nobody else has actually really done this yet. So I don't want to try and take credit for this. It's definitely not an idea that I would have come up with. Some of the people who I question in all of this, I would think maybe some of the people who I would think it was just a matter of time before they thought of it. Some of the people who I either agree with or disagree with, honestly. So special thanks to SyronJAG for coming up with this and doing a lot of legwork, because we're going to go over a lot of information, people. This is not directly, these are not updates on Sophie's case right now. That's not what this is about. This is just we're just going to kind of explore how S.A.N.E exams are done, when they need to take place, what's the procedure once they have taken place, what's the procedure for them to take place in the first place. So we're going to go over all that stuff, and I think it's something really important to try to understand if we're going to try to understand why there is no ongoing investigation in Sophie's case. I don't think this is going to necessarily give us the answers, but I think it's going to help us along that path. So, Cherry K, what's up, girl? I think, yeah, we're definitely going to delve into some pretty eye-opening stuff here, because what I want you to do is, once you get this information, I want you to start using that information in order to ask yourself questions about things that you happen to know to be facts so far in this case. So let's keep an open mind here, folks. So I want to go over a couple of things. I want to be very clear about something. I want to publicly say it. I do not in any way, shape, or form condone any of my moderators to body shame anyone or say things that, even in jest, suggest someone committing suicide as an insult That is the worst kind of cyberbullying, in my opinion. And like I said, even in jest, that's not an okay thing to do, because you don't know where that person is in their head, in their mind, and what they're dealing with. So I do not condone this. I do not condone this at all. And so, yeah, I just wanted to make that very clear to all of my moderators. I appreciate everything that you're doing. But yeah, that sort of thing. And I don't think there's anybody here in this chat that is engaged in that. So I just want to be clear about that. I don't think that is anyone here right now that I've seen in chat right now is guilty of this. But it did happen, and it did happen in someone else's chat. And I am taking what I believe to be the appropriate steps in dealing with that situation. So rest assured, I just want you to know the person who sent me this information showed me the screenshots of the chat. They're indisputable. I know what I saw. I know what I read. So I appreciate you coming to me with this, and it's not to be taken lightly. So, another thing, let's get the. I'm not even sure if I even want to bring that up, but maybe I'll touch on something else. So, many of you may have noticed that I've taken down the last live stream that I did, and there was some subject matter regarding another creator, and I had that creator on, and I'm gonna say what I stand on that and leave it at that, because that's not the reason why I took the live down. I want to be abundantly clear about that. It has nothing to do with that creator, has nothing to do with this unfortunate thing that he's dealing with at the moment. So I want to be very clear about that. As far as I'm concerned, as far as that situation is concerned, and I'm going to be as candid as I possibly can be about it. I don't care if 20 years ago, a 19-year-old touched a 16-year-old's boobs. I don't care. It happened 20 years ago. It has nothing to do with what I'm talking about now, or it's not. I have no reason to believe that it was predatory. And I'll make one last point on this: is this person could have completely denied it, because there's no record of it. There's no record of it. And so this person could have easily denied it. And yet, and just said, prove it. Prove these crazy allegations. But instead, he took accountability. He explained the situation. He explained why there's no record of it, because the system, and at the end of the day, felt like, okay, no real crime took place here. So we're just going to let it go. It's not going to be on his record. That's it. So as far as I'm concerned, that's all I need. So that's it as far as that goes. That has nothing to do with why I took the live down. Why I took the live down was, I got a privacy notice on it. But that's not the only thing that's going to get me to take that live down. Another creator was on, and it's fair, having listened to that. Well, not another creator, a subscriber, someone who I've seen in other chats as of late, and on other panels as of late. And this person strongly feels that they were mistreated on my panel. I know I didn't do that, or at least I don't think I did, but I was accused of allowing it. I was accused of letting it happen. And I don't speak for other people, and I don't control what other people do. But the fact is it goes both ways. So this person was accused of something that they were denying, and it's basically a crime. So, it swings both ways. The door swings both ways on that. If I'm not seeing any proof of that on that end, I'm not saying whether I think it happened or whether I don't think it happened. That's not the point. But if I'm going to be fair with people who come on my panel, well, it's only fair that I defend that person just as well under the same points. So that's why I took it down. That's me taking responsibility for my end of that. Because I listened to that person on a panel, on a very hostile panel, by the way. And that person actually was coming at me absolutely correct. So much respect to that person for that. I don't know you beyond that. I'm not. So, but during that exchange, very, very interesting exchange. So, and I see certain people in here right now, and you're welcome in here. Just don't fuck up, please. But you're welcome in here as long as you don't fuck up. Okay? So I just wanted to be clear that is the reason why the live came down. It's not even privatized. It is deleted. It's no longer out there. But I wanted to also be clear that what my opinion was on that regarding that one creator situation, well, that opinion remains. So I in no way am I retracting anything that I said on that live stream. I want to be so clear about that. So anyway, there are other things going on that, if I'm being 150% honest, they just don't deserve my acknowledgement. They're, thanks, Brother Preach. I think you're pretty interesting yourself, actually. You always leave very insightful comments when you join me. So I'm always glad when you do. Well, here's the thing is I don't even care if I lose subs over this stuff. You know what I mean? I just don't. If you are unsubbing from me because I'm being honest with you about, and I'm bringing you data regarding a case, and there's only a few of us that have been bringing data on this case. These other channels that say stand with Kelly. See, that's the thing is you don't see any of us hashtagging stand with Michael. We're not doing that. The whole thing is we're trying to get to the bottom of a situation. We are going by the logic that you believe the child. Yes, you mock us when we say it. Believe the child. But yeah, I stand by us saying, yes, you believe the child. Absolutely. Because you just so that you can conduct a thorough investigation. And everybody's like, oh, well, an investigation did take place. And I'm like, yes, but not a thorough one. An investigation began and then somehow just disappeared like a fart in the wind. And for some reason, that doesn't bother certain people. And the type of people that it doesn't seem to bother, in my opinion, are people who just want to be right. See, I'm not up here trying to be right about something. Annie's not up on her channel trying to be right about something. We're not trying to prove a side is right here. We're trying to get something done. We're trying to create action. Because it was refreshing because Annie and I were texting earlier and she explained that she brought it up. And this is the thing, is I talk about this all the time. I let her know. I was like, I actually talk about this on my channel. The entire point is to get people talking about it. One of the arguments, as of recent, on someone else's channel, one of the arguments they were saying was that, well, if and you hear this a lot, well, why isn't the mainstream news covering it? Well, that's the problem. If you look at it, if you look at these types of cases, mainstream media never covers it. You might see a little article, but national news media is not covering it. Only when there's a bust, right? When there's a bust of a trafficking ring, sure. But not when there's a case that a child is screaming for help, and then it goes viral. Well, I mean, there's way too much to dictate. I mean, what happened with that S.A.N.E exam? Where is it? That's what we're going to explore here tonight, guys. We're going to explore possibilities. We're going to try to figure out where this is at. Or at least we're just going to have to come up. We're going to be speculating as to where this is at. If I'm being 100% honest, we're speculating as to where this S.A.N.E exam is as far as processing goes, and going towards being investigated properly. So I'm going to bring my man SyronJAG on, guys. Welcome.
Greetings.
How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. I've spent a very eventful weekend crawling all over the internet.
Yeah, and I really, really, really want to take this moment to really, really, really tell you that I really, really, really appreciate you for it. I mean, between you and that girl sent me a summary of what you had come up with, basically a summary, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So let's try to run through it as quickly as we can, but as thoroughly as we can.
Okay, I will do my very best. Okay.
So because I'm thinking, I'm looking at what you've got here, and I think probably the best thing to do is try to explain what a S.A.N.E exam actually is.
Okay. The S.A.N.E exam is basically the exam they do after the assault. In Texas, because the state is so large, they do not have enough hospitals to cover the entire area. So they have little clinics to try to cover the entire state, because you may not have a hospital within range of everybody for like 200 miles. So they have nurses that are trained in performing the exams. So they will go to these little bitty clinics that aren't in range of the people, and they're trained to perform the exams to collect the evidence for the people. And so they are trained to, you will do this, you will do this swab, you will collect these clothes, you will collect this swab in this place, you will collect this clothing. If you
so it's definitely, I mean, it's safe to say that this is probably adding to the trauma of a child who's just been abused. I mean, just the process of having to collect this evidence is bad.
Yes, but I've seen the manual where they train the nurses, and it's a lot. But there's also training in there where they teach you how to be kind to the people, and
so they're trained in comforting and guiding them through it psychologically, mentally, emotionally. They're trained in coaching the victim to process this and yes, cope with it,
in getting through it the best they can without right.
Okay.
And even that, even with that training, they're having trouble getting enough nurses to even cover the entirety of Texas. So now instead of even having that, they're having to have the nurses trained in the S.A.N.E exam call the regular nurses and walk them through how to do the S.A.N exams. So regular nurses are doing it now, and so now
but those regular nurses are not exactly coached. Are they coached in like we just explained, guiding the child or the victim through the process of coping with it? And how to process and cope with it better?
Well, a nurse is trained in like comforting a patient, but they're not trained in specifically in how to coach an assault victim in this process.
So why are they doing that? Why are they just letting any nurse do it now? What would be the explanation for that?
Because they don't have anyone else. I mean, they're covering, Texas has 29.9 million people and over an area that vast, and they just don't have the people to cover that set of square miles.
I mean, does this? So it's safe to say that this happens quite often to the point to where they're just overrun.
Yeah, they're completely overrun, and they just don't have the people to cover this whole area. So, but they've started having legal challenges to the point where they're challenging the fact that non-S.A.N trained nurses are performing the exams, and now the prosecutors are having to fight in court that no, we've had the actual trained nurses walking these nurses through the exams, and so these are fine, and they're having to fight it out in court now. But that's by far one of the least of the problems that they're having with these now. So.
Yeah, that's what's hold on, sorry about that.
Okay, so
sorry, I'm trying to find something else here, but go ahead, please.
Okay, I'll just start. The main question I think everyone had was at the time of the last live stream Annie had with Michael. Sophie's S.A.N exam had still been in Houston and not processed at all since its arrival around 2 months ago. Okay. After it had been held in Frisco for around 30 days. So that's when I started looking into it to see if there was any way to expedite the process.
Is it normal? Have you looked into finding out if it's normal for it to take that long?
Well, let me skip over to that part here. Okay, in Texas, in 2019, they signed into law something called the Lavinia Masters Act. Before 2019, there was a law stating, and it was under the Attorney General, that said that when the S.A.N kit was performed, they had 14 days to get the kit to the lab. And Texas has 16 labs. And the closest one to where that particular test was done was Houston. But since this test was done since this law was passed, in 2019, the law changed so that now the investigating police department has to be contacted within 3 days. That means Frisco, since that's the investigating department in Sophie's case, has to be contacted within 3 days. Then, because that department is over 100 miles away from where the test was performed, they have 14 days to pick up the lab or to pick up the kit. And then after that, they have 30 days to send it to the lab where it's going to be processed, which is Houston.
So walk me through real quick. So what it sounds like to me, so did they follow through with this in time?
Well, yes, but that's not the ideal according to how the attorney general wants it, and not according to how the S.A.N.E kit itself wants to be processed. The attorney general still wants it processed within 14 days. And the people who designed the S.A.N.E kit itself wants it to start being processed in 14 days. But
it hasn't even begun to get processed yet, has it?
No, and still.
And how long has it been?
It is still right at. It's a little over 3 months still since it has been drawn, and the guideline for the state says that it wants all new S.A.N.E kits completed. That is completed, not started to be processed. It wants them completed within 90 days. And
it's been 90 days. It's been 90 days and it hasn't even been processed.
Right. And then here's
hasn't
the
even
other
begun.
thing.
So the only thing, let's talk about this for a second. The only thing that has taken place so far is the trauma that Sophie had to go through to get that S.A.N.E kit taken and done on her. So this is the only thing that's actually gotten done as far as the S.A.N.E kit's existence in this investigation.
Yes.
And then so so explain to me your personal opinion why you think that this Frisco sergeant on the phone with the what's that department again? The other one? It always slips my mind.
Yeah, it slips mine too.
Well, whatever. And I don't have a problem with them, so I'm not even going to name their name. But they, the whole thing is why would he try to intercept this from happening, and then this take very, very far from the ideal time that a S.A.N.E exam would even begin to get processed?
Well, I think they took that long because this law said they were allowed to have that long. So that's the only reason I could conceivably understand why they would do that. But it sounds to me like they just took. There's clearly no actions here saying let's get justice for Sophie. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out what's going on. You know, there's clearly no indication of this happening so far. So what they're doing, and what it sounds like to me, that is quite the opposite, which is let's drag this as far as we can legally drag it. But what would be the purpose behind that? What would be, why go out of your way to take longer in getting it processed? Why actually make the extra effort to keep it from getting processed? That's what it sounds like to me. Because especially if people keep calling, it's not just the Longs that are calling and trying to find out what's going on with the S.A.N.E exam. It's other people. It's the people following this case, right? Yeah, I think Texas has. It's not just Sophie's case that's an issue with Texas. Endthebacklog.org, which is, I don't know if you're familiar. That's the organization that Mariska Hargitay from Law and Order SVU started to help.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
To start clearing rape kit backlogs across the nation. They specifically have researched as to where the backlogs are, and they highlight Texas, and they said that Texas has an issue, and the American Bar Association actually highlights Texas also. Texas has a real issue with the law enforcement there. In many places, they don't take reports from children seriously. It's not just this one case. It's many jurisdictions. They don't take
So
any.
you're saying in the entire state of Texas, so you're saying that what you looked into here, the entire state of Texas has a serious problem with people not taking victims seriously when they come for help, when they ask for help.
Child victims, yes.
Child victims specifically.
Victims specifically.
So basically what it sounds like to you, what you're saying, and based on the stuff that you dug up, Sophie is just part of a very large problem.
Yes.
She's a casualty in a very large problem that's happening all over that entire state, not just the area where they live in.
Correct.
Wow. So
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, the only reason that I think that is we're not talking about this enough. You know, we're just not addressing this enough, because we need to get the major news media to talk about this, because the sponsors don't want to. You know what I'm saying? I think it has to do with the sponsors, honestly. But the fact is I mean, it's a very, very two-sided thing, because you look at the stuff that Josh is fighting. He wants to talk to the sponsors and get the sponsors to stop sponsoring these videos on YouTube of family vloggers, because they're exploiting and sexualizing their kids. But here we are on the opposite end of that spectrum, where sponsors don't want to sponsor news coverage of kids being hurt. And you know, we need to get angry about this. We all need to collectively start getting angry about this and start demanding that the news, the mainstream media start to make some noise here. And get people on board with this, because we need to expect more from our law enforcement if that's the case. And all these, you know, defund the police people who say that the reason why they want to defund the police, it's not actually to defund the police. It's actually to put funds towards something more worthwhile. Well, what's more worthwhile than protecting our kids? So why don't we demand that law enforcement start taking action against this? Why don't we get with the defund the police types and try to get their attention? You know, and maybe we can work something out with them as far as taking the funding that they're trying to reposition in the police force. Well, let's put it towards something productive, something that's going to keep our children safe. I don't see anything wrong with that. But I'm dreaming. Yep. You know what I'm saying? I'm dreaming, you know, but I mean, is it that crazy of an idea? I mean, doesn't this issue bother everyone? Yeah. So why are we not doing everything we can to make sure that these kids get justice? That we just at least get somebody to look into it. And, you know, if people think, oh, well, it's such a waste of resources because sometimes we just don't come up with that shouldn't affect the kids that really need the help, that really need the, you know, that shouldn't affect that.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes it's even worse than that. Not only are they not taking the reports seriously, but in some jurisdictions, in some cases, they're even destroying the kits before they're even processed. I mean,
why? I mean, what is the reason behind that?
Because they convince themselves that no assault ever occurred. So it's okay to destroy their evidence. That's straight from the American Bar Association. I'm not making it up. I gave a couple of people the references, so they can post those if they like. They may not understand the way that like child predators operate, or the ways that assaults are covered up, or they may not be fully aware of the statute of limitations, or maybe someday they'll wake up, but I don't understand it.
See, it's people like this that I can't relate to. That's the issue. I'm not going to insult this person. I'm just going to point out that I even though I've sat there and I've endured this person's insults in other chats for the last couple of days, I'm not going to get that low. But I am. I mean, look at this question. What are the results of the S.A.N.E exam going to help with right now? What do you mean? Is that a serious question? Or is that meant to be funny? Like, you want to answer that, Siren? Because
Sure.
I mean, I will. And I will after you, please.
Okay. The S.A.N.E exam will pinpoint when you get the exam processed. It will pinpoint DNA because her blood was drawn. It will determine if the sample, it will separate her part of it versus any other parts of it, depending on how many other samples are. They will match those to CODIS, except it may take a while. It's not like you see it on TV. So it could take months to get those results back. Right. Then, but the S.A.N.E exam does not tell you from those DNA results that someone was assaulted. It only tells you they have sex. But children can't consent to sex, so it's automatically assault.
Of course.
And then you also can tell.
Jesus, no, Allie Joe, not just DNA. He just explained. Not just DNA. No, you're also going to look for venereal diseases.
You also look for
transmitted diseases.
Sexually transmitted diseases. You also look for injuries, bite marks.
Right, trauma.
Yes.
I mean, none of these things should be taking place on a child is the point. The fact that I'm even humoring you at this point is so I'm not going to do that anymore. And if I don't even think that you're trolling. I think that you actually think that these are valid questions. But anyway,
and I'm going to explain that if someone allowed these other people access to her, then that's an issue of trafficking. And that's all I'm going to say about that for now.
And I mean, yeah, that's another thing that I'm going to do. I am going to end up going over. This is what I'm going to do after this live. The next live that I'm going to do probably, as far as at least the Sophie case, is I am going to just start from the beginning. We're gonna create I'm gonna have a timeline going, and we're gonna go over everything. We're gonna go over every 911 call. We're gonna go over everything, and this, because I think that there's just way too much misinformation out there, and I'm seeing it all too often. And
that's why I'm doing this in the first place, is because there's so much information and no one did this. So that's why I'm doing this. Right. Okay. Oh God.
Okay. I'm gonna humor you one more time. So here's this person again. So you think a healthcare provider is going to allow a child to sit there with a positive STD and not treat them because they're waiting for a S.A.N.E exam to be processed? No, nobody's saying that. Not one person is saying that. What's going on is when there is, and we heard it on the phone call, it's just bleeped out. But we know that the nurse found something. We know that the nurse noticed signs of something that I cannot mention here. And I will not mention here. But and it happened while these two police officers were on the phone together. So
no one is going to find an infection who's a healthcare professional and not treat it and allow it to go on raging. They're going to, at the very least, prescribe something.
So I mean right. To assume, to make statements like that are very misleading, and this is what happens on those other channels. To make statements like that is just completely and totally misleading to the very simple-minded, and that's just crazy. Of course, they're going to treat it. Who's to say that they didn't? Why would you think? What by saying that you're implying? And I feel like you know what you're doing when you do that. By saying that, you're implying that she wasn't treated. How do you know that she wasn't treated? What do you mean she wasn't treated? You have no idea. So don't say things like that. Because it's really bad. We're talking about a child here, and nobody's comfortable talking about it. That's the whole thing, is nobody's comfortable talking about this. But unfortunately, it's on us to make it's on some of us to make everyone aware, or as many people who are willing to listen, aware that there's not enough being done to get to the bottom of Sophie's claims. That's it. That's all we're trying to do. I don't understand why this is so. I just don't understand why this is such a debate and such an issue. I mean, I do understand it because you have creators like CK who have gone live, and for whatever reason, she released another video today, or she re-released a video that she had privatized prior, where you're basically seeing her decide to take on this case, having not known anything about it. And this clip that one of my mods pointed out says that she blames both Kelly and Michael equally, that both of these parents are completely irresponsible. And yet since then she's been just going with the opposite viewpoint and just saying that she's speaking up for Kelly, where it still has yet to be determined whether or not Kelly is even in contact with CK. So we just don't know this stuff. And yet no actual information is coming from that side of things. Nobody's actually sharing any real information. Nobody's sharing any data. They're just going live and spitting out lies. And I'm going to address real quick. I'm going to address the Michael and CK interview that's in question, because I know CK went and she said something regarding, Michael still has not contacted me. And both times he tried to come on my live, I was already on for a long time, and I said I was tired. And so, and I was going to call it a night. Right. Well, but the thing is she didn't either one of those times. She continued to be live. She continued to go live and continued. That time could have been spent speaking with Michael and asking him the questions that you've been regarding the horrible, crazy, outlandish things you've been spitting out about the guy. You just dragged the guy for hours. And so you turn him down, and then you make excuses because he's not contacting you to set up something that you can blow up and make some sort of event. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. If you're listening, CK, I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. I actually suggested to Michael. Now, he's his own man. He makes his own decisions. He does what he wants. I don't speak for him at all. But I will say that I did suggest to him that if he was going to do it, that he should set the stipulation that it's on a neutral, non-monetized channel to where she doesn't get to make a dime off of it. So none of her links to any of her money can be posted in the chat, and no ad revenue, nothing. Because the reason why I say that is I know that she won't do it. I know that the only reason she wants to do it is so that she can build it up and she can cash in as a payday. And that's the only reason. But if she's really, if she's saying, I'm going to continue to fight for the underdog, I'm going to continue to fight for Kelly because she's the underdog. Well, if it's coming from that place, she would be willing to have this conversation and not collect a dime off of it. So that's what I suggested to Michael. He's his own man. He can do whatever he wants, but that's personally how I feel about it, because I know for a fact that she's only in this because it's making her money, and that's it. So moving on.
Okay, I need to address something someone asked really quickly.
Okay, please.
Not every assault is going to result in a hospitalization. Some predators take extraordinary care to make sure that they don't injure someone. So you don't see a lot of injury to the person. You don't see the bruises and the bite marks and the lacerations and anything. They don't want to show anything visible in particular because they don't want to get caught. So
right. Yeah, they know exactly what they're doing is going to get them locked up if they get caught. And all you got to do is just convince the kid to be quiet, because they depend on that. But I mean, it's just disgusting. It's disgusting to think what the links that they go to try to cover up their evidence. But I want to know why the Frisco PD seems to be going out of their way to not investigate this. That's what I want to know. I'm not accusing them outright of corruption, but I am outright accusing them of at least negligence, because this child definitely deserves her fair place in the system to work for her and protect her. And that's not happening. It's just not happening. You don't get to just dismiss it by saying, "Oh, well, she's probably just a brat and a liar." Yeah, that's not how justice works.
Oh, watch this one. Okay, while I was looking for this, I had a link pop up on one of the links as I was researching the S.A.N.E exam about trafficking. There was a 2015 law in Texas enacted that allows police to take quote unquote emergency possession of sex trafficking victims as long as they place them in secure facilities, providing everything from 24-hour supervision to counseling. But there is no such facility in Texas, and no funding has ever been allocated to create one. There's only one facility in the entire state that's licensed specifically to treat victims of sex trafficking, and it can only fill 20 beds at a time over a state of 29.9 million people. There's not one bed available for an emergency placement, and there are no beds for boys. So that means that when you get victims that come into contact with authorities that they should trust, the only place they can go is juvenile detention. So
what?
Yep. That means
so basically they're bullied into, and probably not intentionally, I'm not saying that it's a big conspiracy theory, but basically the underlying tone is that they're bullied into keeping quiet, because if they come forward and go through with it all the way, they're possibly going to end up in
jail. Yes.
For coming forward and trying to get help.
You come forward and try to get help, or if you're a victim,
that is shocking.
Yeah. So not only that, but the boyfriend's stepdad threatening what he threatened, he couldn't have done what he did, but because he was out of his jurisdiction. But he absolutely could have gotten the actual cops in that jurisdiction to do that.
That's unbelievable. So, I mean, with this happening, how is the market for sex trafficking children in the state of Texas not absolutely flourishing? This helps their market. This helps the market of the entire racket. Does it not?
Oh, it does. Yeah. Yes, it does. It absolutely
it's almost like a weapon that they use. So they actually can absolutely scare a child, truthfully scare a child, that if they come forward, they could end up in juvenile detention center.
Oh, yeah. So they have no place else to go because the police won't help them. They run from their foster care. I'll get to that in a minute. They have no place else to go other than back to the people who have trafficked them. It's
right.
Horrible.
So that tells me that there's trafficking going on everywhere in Texas. Like it's booming. Because why wouldn't they do it? You understand what I'm saying? If you're involved in that, then I mean it's a racket. You're bound to just make money hand over fist.
Yeah,
and you're protected by the law, essentially.
Well, not all. I mean, to be fair, it's not all. Not every police person is going to do that. But I mean,
well, no. But what I'm saying is the fact that, I mean, think about it. If there's only two places, one being the only facility in the state where it doesn't have and there's no beds ever available, right? So basically, that's already eliminated. So chances are, child's just not getting in there, right? So the only other alternative is that they end up in jail. So basically, I mean, let's do the math here. Basically, if a child comes forward for sex trafficking or they discover a sex trafficking ring, these children are going to wind up, if they don't have a home to go to, they're going to wind up in a juvenile detention center, because that's the only place for them to house them.
Well, I suppose if the other alternative is to somehow get them to CPS and foster care. I mean, to be fair, but we've talked about the CPS system in Texas for months now, and we know about that system. But it's estimated that for every, with all the children that are quote unquote rescued from sex trafficking in Texas, about a third end up in jail.
A third. Jesus. What else can we go over here? Hold on one second. Let me see. So yeah, we talked about the backlog that they have. We talked about the laws. Let's discuss this Goldwater rule.
Okay. Let's discuss that.
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, this is tasty. The Goldwater rule is the rule that psychiatrists and psychologists should not discuss in public anyone whom they should have not personally examined. And this was the standard in psychiatry for decades.
Right.
Until Trump took office. And then...
Right.
And then...
What does Trump taking office have anything to do with it? Exactly.
Then it pissed off a bunch of psychiatrists. And they started wanting to say what all was wrong with Trump publicly. And then when they started getting called to the carpet on the Goldwater rule,
okay. So Trump's ego just couldn't take it, is what you're saying. So yeah. Trump's ego couldn't take it. So he's like, no more Goldwater rule. So for those of you that don't know, Goldwater was a senator, I think, right? I've got it right here, actually. So Goldwater, let's see, what's his name? What's his full name? I had it right here. So the Goldwater Rule is Section 7 in the American Psychiatric Association's Principle of Medical Ethics, which states that it is unethical for psychiatrists to give a professional opinion about public figures whom they have not examined in person and from whom they have not obtained consent to discuss their mental health in public statements. It is named after former U.S. Senator and 1964 presidential candidate Barry Goldwater. The issue arose in 1964 when Fact published The Unconscious of a Conservative, a special issue on the mind of Barry Goldwater. The magazine polled psychiatrists about U.S. Senator Barry Goldwater and whether he was fit to be president. Goldwater sued magazine editor Ralph Ginsburg and managing editor Warren Barrowson, and in Goldwater versus Ginsburg, July 1969, received damages totaling $75,000, which is $523,000 today. Now, I just want to state real quick. I know there's a couple people talking about a certain so-called psychiatrist on YouTube who's fairly new to the community. So I want you to keep that in mind.
Oh yeah,
I want you to keep that in mind. That's all I'm saying.
I'm keeping it in mind.
So let's keep your eyes and ears open for my man.
I'm behaving myself
when he starts to talk.
Well, he can chirp all he wants. The issue was in 2017, but Trump and people who supported him started chirping at the psychiatrists who were.
So now this thing is, so does that mean that legally now that certain YouTuber can just run his mouth about people and make his own little diagnoses?
When all that broke, the American Psychiatric Association started saying things to the effect that, well, it was never an official rule, and we have no pull over people who were never members of us, and it doesn't count on political commentary over public figures, and yada, yada, yada.
I just realized it doesn't make sense that Trump would want to get rid of it, though, because that protects people. It protects him from people fucking trashing him.
No,
right?
Trump wanted to uphold it. It was
he wanted
American
to
Psychiatric.
So I got it wrong. It wasn't his ego that. Okay, yeah, my bad. That's my own fault.
So the American Psychiatric Association was saying, well, yeah, but it was never really a thing. So we were just kind of.
Isn't it fair to say that Michael and especially Sophie are public figures at this point?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, Sophie being a child, and
they're public figures. Don't mistake that for celebrity. That is exactly what they are not. and say that they're being made out to be that is ridiculous. And anybody who thinks of them and talks about them like they are is insane to me as well. So I don't support that in the slightest bit. What I am saying, though, when you got thousands and thousands of people talking about one person, well, I'd say that pretty much makes them a public figure by definition. So yeah, people got to be careful about what they're talking about as far as giving opinions of someone's lifestyle and what they're doing. And, now one might argue that, well, I talked about how Jake had offered a woman cocaine to see her tits. And some might say that I kind of did the same thing there. Well, no, what I did was I showed evidence that this is a guy that's willing to offer someone cocaine to see their tits. And this is not a moral fellow, as it were, based on evidence that we have seen. So, and I'm not saying that he's guilty of a crime. I'm saying that these things, considering his past charges, and considering the fact that, and I didn't see these charges, but I definitely heard a 911 call, or saw a transcript, as a matter of fact, of a 911 call where Kelly was stating that he has several guns, but she owns them because he has a felony assault charge. Now, I have not seen any. I've not seen any, record of an assault charge myself, but I have definitely seen felony drug charges. So, to say that he doesn't use drugs when, I mean, maybe he's clean now. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, when we have this much evidence about somebody and we know what they're capable of, again, I feel that just adds to the pile of things, of reasons as to why to look into this person and see if this child's claims are correct. So that's all I'm saying. Just look into it thoroughly. I'm not asking to take away anybody's rights. I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm asking you to do your job as law enforcement officers and investigators and investigate. That's all I'm saying.
Well, it comes into what's a public figure. I mean, at the top end of it, Michael's Facebook group had 200,000 people? I mean, that's a lot, but it's out of a country of 320 million people.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, he had worldwide support. He had people from all over the world that were supporting him. So it's not even all those Americans either. Like
6 billion people.
Right. Truth be told, if I were to walk into my job and mention, hey, following the Sophie case, they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
So
that's not a public figure. Taylor Swift is a public figure, but no one I know has ever heard of Michael Owens.
No. We're arguing semantics here, but I stand by what I said. A public figure is somebody who is known publicly. They are definitely known publicly, not privately, publicly. So that makes them public figures. Now, maybe not celebrities, maybe not famous people, but good. They shouldn't be looked at that way anyway. They're just a bunch of people in a real fucked up situation and nobody's helping them. That's what it boils down to. So this is the issue. But yes, at this point, I think that they qualify as public figures, since I'm a perfect fucking stranger sitting here on a YouTube channel talking about them. So I'm going to stand by that.
But I mean, as far as anything else, I mean, whether they're public figures or not, I mean, is it a shit thing to do to diagnose someone
that you don't
based
know?
On that you don't know, that you haven't had your primary actual visit with, that's supposed to take, if you're a psychiatrist, that you're supposed to take 90 minutes with your full questionnaire, your medical history, your full patient background, with your full everything. with your full interview and everything else. Is that a crap thing to do? Absolutely, it is. But I mean, it's his thing. But I don't think that's the real problem with that. What I think the real problem is that he's forming that opinion instead of based on his own personal study of the thing. He's basing it based on the little bitty clips that he's seeing on the internet and based on the opinions of people that he's talking to online in live streams and based on the opinions of chats instead of talking to the quote unquote patient herself. That's the real problem. I mean, that's the real, and the issue is, why would we ever want possible medical anything possibly determined by that? I mean, we don't want possible medical theory determined by the quote unquote critical thinking of that sort. We want a scientific method. We don't want anything determined like that. That's just insanity. It's just get me away from it. That's just crazy.
Yeah. So I'm looking at so it says here who actually pays for the S.A.N.E exam, and it says that state law requires that law enforcement agency requesting the exam to pay all expenses related to the gathering of forensic evidence from the victim. Let me read that one more time. State law requires the law enforcement agency requesting the exam to pay all expenses related to the gathering of forensic evidence from the victim. The victim's cooperation in pressing charges is not a factor. If the law enforcement agency requests that the exam be conducted, the law enforcement agency is responsible for paying the costs. So this could all just boil down to a budget thing on top of everything else. It could be that they just don't think that there's enough funding for it. And that's why they're dodging it. They could be cutting corners. At the end of the day, anything that costs money to run is somewhat of a business. You have to. There's obviously budgets that have to take place, and so the police department, as we were talking about earlier, has to take certain money and put it towards things that they think is prioritizes over other things, right?
Yes.
So again, we're coming back to that. We're coming back to what can we do to make this something that they feel is a priority. I mean, in the state of Texas, if this is a problem, which it seems to be based on everything that we went over, it seems to me that anybody, even somebody who was inclined to start a trafficking business and was aware of how Texas law works, would move to Texas if they weren't even from there to start their trafficking business and succeed. That's what it sounds like to me. That basically the state is set up in favor for the child trafficker to operate within impunity.
Yes, that is correct.
So what's to not entice someone from fucking Montana to move to Texas, someone from Missouri, someone from Idaho to move to Texas and start their little trafficking ring? I mean, it doesn't even have to be like people, when you see it on TV, it's always like, oh my God, they busted this place and it filled a bus full of people, right? No, man, a trafficking ring could just be one child. It could be one child that's passed on to a certain group of people.
Yes.
So, and this could be happening everywhere in Texas. I have no reason to think that it's not happening everywhere in Texas.
That's absolutely the case. And it could be with, especially, I mean, I have nothing but conjecture to back it up. But I mean, it is right beside the border to Mexico. So, I mean, okay.
Yeah, this is right. I mean, it's right there next to Mexico, man. You know, yeah. And God, I don't even want to say the things that I'm thinking. Sometimes I feel like I bit off a little more than I can chew when I do these live streams. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you. And not in the sense that like, oh, well, I'm saying things that are going to get me in trouble. Nothing like that. I find myself realizing how uncomfortable this subject makes me to talk about it and to even think about it. So, yeah, because there's so much. It would just be completely inappropriate to even. I mean,
Okay, well, let me cover this real quick while I'm thinking about it, while it's staring at me. The immediate question of what can be done if one S.A.N.E exam is stuck in backlog. The short answer is it is really tough to find any information about any one person to contact to get a state's crime lab to find one kit and jump it in a state's lab queue. The practical reason is you would be asking that state to consider one case as somehow more pressing than the thousands of others that have built up over the years that would still be waiting in the crime lab. Because, I mean, every one of those cases deserves justice. And, I mean, you consider your case that you're asking about as the most important case in the world, and to you it absolutely is, but the state is the state. It considers all its citizens equally, at least in theory, when we all know that's not really true, but the state will tell you that all its citizens are equals. And the actual answer is to, when you have that exam done, you are supposed to be put in touch with a victim advocate, and that person is who literally advocates for you as far as getting in touch with the labs and the police investigators and everything to help find out what's going on. Why is my exam taking so long to process? And they do everything for you as far as from go-between with the law enforcement to being your counselor. Then beyond that, contacting your state representatives may be of some benefit. The state attorney general ultimately is over all of the S.A.N.E exams as far as any regulations to them.
right.
The state legislature is who controls the funding for the programs for the labs, and the way you get all the kits run is to throw money at the problem. So
Sure.
they can increase the hours. They increase
So does the money exist? So does the money exist to throw at the problem? Is the issue here?
Texas does a budget like any other state does a budget. They can budget the extra money to run the kits, and they can farm out the kits to private labs or other states that don't have a backlog, because there are other states like Massachusetts who don't have a backlog at all.
So it could be just that simple. I mean, it could just be as simple as Sophie's kit is taking too long to get processed because of the backlog, right?
Yes.
It could be just that simple. Could be just as simple as Sophie's case is not being processed because there isn't a budget for it.
Yes. Or they don't have the staff. They don't have the staff. They don't have the money. Right. But right now, at last count, the backlog in Texas is just under 3,000 kits.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the whole state,
Yes.
not as bad as I would guess. If you asked me for the whole state, I'd probably be like 10,000. You know, just as a number off the top of my head, which I don't know anything about. Just a wild guess. You know, like guessing how many jelly beans are in the jar, type of thing. But yeah. So what that brings me to the conclusion of is, what are we going to do to try to expedite this? Because again, as much as I want justice for Sophie, if there's a backlog, then the solution seems to be to get that backlog rolling, get it going. So it's, you know, that's the issue here. If that's the issue, then that's what we need to be focused on, in my personal opinion, because I've always said this, Sophie inspired all of this, and I absolutely want justice for Sophie, but this isn't just about Sophie. This has never been just about Sophie. This is about a problem, an existing problem in our society, and obviously a major problem just in the state of Texas, where Sophie's case is. So where we're at now is we need to find, if obviously the research that you've done on S.A.N.E exams gave us a number of possibilities as to why Sophie's S.A.N.E kit is taking so long to get processed. So let's start targeting those. I say let's start targeting those possibilities, and that's us. That's something we all have to do. We have to make people more aware. You have to share this on your social media. You have to share this everywhere. Not necessarily this video. I just mean the facts that we're putting out. Get creative and find your own way to get these facts out there. You know, to me, that's the best way to get things done. I'll never forget when Jamie was on 10 to Life, Jamie being Michael's attorney, saying that the way that the court system changes is always comes from a demand from the people. That's the only way it ever changes. It's the only way the system ever changes for the better is when the people demand it. So, you know, don't just log on to my channel and just see it as entertainment and something to listen to. Like, take this information and do something with it, please. Anything that you can, even if it seems like the smallest thing, even if it seems anything just as small as even talking to a buddy, you know, or, you know, you're going shopping with a friend, bring it up, talk about it when you're having lunch. I realize it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about. But when you stick to the overall issue, not necessarily the details, nobody's telling you to go into gory details, but just if you know, if you're a parent, you know, what happened to PTA meetings? You know, if you have PTA meetings, bring it up at your PTA meeting. Make other parents aware of this stuff and the problem that it exists, especially if you live in a state like Texas. You know, get people talking about it. Obviously, be tactful. You don't want to, you know, be out drinking at a bar with your buddies and just start talking about SA. That's a bummer. I get it. I get it. What I'm saying is, you know, there's a time and place where you can actually, if there's somebody that you respect, and you feel like that you're going to be able to get them thinking, the right time and place where you're having a heart to heart, bring it up, man. Bring it up. Make them aware. This is a serious problem.
And this is I told a few people, this is soul killing stuff, what I've gone through for the past several days. I mean, it is just, I feel like I've lost like several years off my life just having to go through all of it. I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm thankful for all the people I've been like venting to on Discord because I mean, if I hadn't been, I would have been like just I'd be just in just like a rut because I don't know what I would have been done. I would be just like in my bed, like comatose.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go ahead and we're going to wrap this up real soon, but I want to go ahead and thank you for this because I feel like I mean, this is a hell of a thing for a victim. You know, you having been a victim yourself. I commend you for taking the energy and anger that you have from that and doing something positive like this and just digging deep and doing some research and it's all coming from a place of you want to help people and try to prevent this from happening to someone else. And so I want to go ahead and say thank you to you for that and for coming on here and sharing all this information. And we're going to discuss this stuff some more. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let you off here, and then I'm going to have some closing words, and then we'll be going into some other stuff later down the road. But this is the direction this channel is going, people.
All right, man. I do need to say one more thing before I get off here.
Please.
Okay. There's a 2016 University of Texas study that said at any 1 year, there's about 79,000 young people being trafficked in Texas, and 78,600 of them have had contact with the child welfare system in Texas. That is 99.49%.
Holy shit. So there's clearly a problem in the child protective services in Texas. Clearly. So we've got a problem with budget and backlog with law enforcement. And then we've got a problem just as bad, if not worse, in child protective services.
Yes.
So, yeah, this is going to be a long fight, guys, and I hope you don't get sick of me. I really hope not. But this is going to be a long fight, and I'm going to keep going. So, guys, SyronJAG, man, I appreciate you, dude, and I thank you so much for all your insight tonight, man.
It's no problem, man.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, catch you later.
All right, bye. What the hell? All right, so guys, yeah, I'm gonna go over chat a little bit here. Yeah, I'm not quite done yet. We're just wanted to have SyronJAG on for a minute there and share his insights. He's shared a lot of stuff with us tonight, and I honestly think it was extremely productive. I hope you guys do too, because we were able to just really focus on some of the possibilities, like I said before, of what's going on with Sophie's case. This way, we're not just blindly, saying, there's no problem here. There's absolutely no problem. Now, it's funny because, and I'm actually going to say something here, even CK at one point, I'm going to have to say that I agreed with her, because even her at one point, she kind of speculated into there being a backlog. A problem is CPS, because but the problem is that she ruined it with a very, very racist comment. So yeah, I don't think that that's the issue. I don't think it's too many Mexicans to deal with. No, I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that the budget is not properly prioritized. Now, again, in all fairness, I'd have to see where this budget's going. I'd have to do classic small business management tactics, which is look at a P&L report, profit and loss, right? I'd have to know where the money's going. I don't know where the money's going. None of us know where the money's going. But obviously there's not enough money going into this issue. There's not enough money going into getting kids justice, because this is, they clearly don't even have either the budget or the manpower to so much as even investigate and look into these cases. So it might just be that simple. So, and if that's the problem, if that's the issue, well, then we focus on that issue. We start to figure out how can we redirect these funds. How can we as citizens demand that change be made? What's the first step? Is it to go to a town hall meeting, focus on that town by town, and start bringing up the issue? I mean, if that's what it takes, why aren't we willing to do that? Right? Why aren't we willing to speak up to our legislators, our local legislators, and discuss the issue and demand that some steps going in the direction of fixing this problem start to take place? I agree with you, sweet one. I absolutely agree with you. So that's what I'm going to do. I just actually got, let me see something here. Nice. Okay. Now this is coming from Annie. Okay. Annie texted me, says Frisco PD was, she's texted me a while ago. I just wasn't looking at my text messages, but she said Frisco PD was in possession of the exam from September 9th to November 6th, 2 months. And it's been in Houston since then, almost another 2 months, 4 in total. So 4 months before it's even been processed. Not to mention, originally it said it went from Frisco to Garland in those first 2 months, but then that disappeared off the tracker, and now it says it was in Frisco that entire time. So there's something off about this tracker on top of everything else. That right there, that in and of itself is somewhat suspicious, is it not? Does that sound like something as simple as backlog? Does that sound like something as simple as we don't have the budget for it? I mean, so questions need to be raised here. Questions need to be raised here. But let's just say that it's not the case. It's not the reasons that we explored tonight, the possibilities that we explored tonight. What if it is a conspiracy? What if for some reason, because let's not forget, guys, let's not forget that we all heard a phone call from an off-duty Frisco sergeant try to intercept evidence from being taken and blatantly lied in order to do it. Sophie did not endure 11 other exams. That is a blatant lie. It did not take place. It didn't happen. Why is this guy going out of his way to discredit Michael Long and say, well, this guy, he's going around telling people that he's Jesus and, and just completely and totally trying to discredit him and do basically what CK does on her channel. So why would that happen? That's what I'd like to know. Why would that happen? Why would this person go out of their way on their off time, not even on duty? It's not like he's working a case. It's not like he's on duty and he's taking calls and some supervisor says, hey, man, I need you to call this guy, this other department. There's something going on regarding this and that. That's not what happened. This guy on his off time, this officer of the law on his off time, contacted this other police department and basically did everything he could and spewed out lie after lie after lie in order to try to stop this procedure from taking place. And this procedure, make no mistake, was simply to collect evidence of an assault claim made by a child. Why try to stop that? Now, I understand if he was telling the truth. If he was telling the truth and saying that this child has gone through 11 other exams, I don't agree with it. I still say, well, you got to fucking do it. If the child is claiming it, there's clearly something wrong. And if it's happened 11 times, there's clearly something wrong. And then you take the steps after that to say, okay, we need to put this on record somehow that this child has been going through hell of being tested. But it just didn't happen. These 11 other exams did not take place. It didn't happen. It is a lie. It's not misinformation. That is a blatant lie. Then meanwhile, we hear the nurse. Well, we don't actually, because it's bleeped out. But the nurse tells the officer there on the scene at the hospital, she tells him, there's signs of this. Seen it before. And there's no reason why a 9-year-old girl should have that. There's just no reason. None at all. So I just find it difficult to believe that, a backlog or a budget's an excuse because you're going to tell me that kids just don't get justice in Texas for SA. If they've been SA'd, they don't get justice. It's just thrown out the window. You're going to tell me that that's just the norm? Because if that's the case, why would any offender be afraid of anything? They could just operate with impunity. No fear of getting caught. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Yeah, and with that phone call even made public, how does this guy still have a job? That's what I want to know. How does that sergeant still have a job? That was the most unethical shit that I've ever heard from an officer. So, all right, real quick before I wrap it up, because I'm about to let SyronJAG back on. He's got something to say. What's up, Siron?
Hey, let me mute the stream real quick. Hey, I'm. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm sorry to leave you on this. I'm sorry to have to bet this back again, but I forgot to say this initially. And I'm sorry. It's gonna be a rough note. Swabs in the oral cavity and the rectal cavity can only, after 24 hours, the chance of retrieving DNA from there reduced to practically zero. And the vaginal cavity, that chance reduces to zero after about 72 hours. And they took Sophie to the ER at around the 72-hour mark. That's not to say that they won't retrieve anything from there.
But the chances are low.
The chances are really, really low.
Really low, right?
And
but I mean, yeah, they need to. There's still no logical reason as to why it's not being processed.
Yeah, there's still no, and the other issue is they only took her underwear, and when they did the exam, they were supposed to have all of Sophie's night clothes from the night that everything happened, and if they didn't have them, the police were supposed to make arrangements to go get them, and the police did not do that.
Yeah, right. I mean, why is it such a question that Michael is pissed? You understand what I'm saying? This isn't a Michael and Kelly thing, what I'm talking about right now. This isn't a Michael and Kelly thing. This is a, whether she's involved in something or whether she isn't, that's not even what I'm even addressing here. I'm trying to address as to why law enforcement, why the Frisco PD did not thoroughly follow through with procedure in order to get to the bottom of this of these claims from Sophie. That's the issue here. Now, beyond that, maybe there's stuff to worry about with Kelly. We'll get to that if that's the case. And if I learn things, I will share them if I have to, as long as I'm not out to slander anyone. But what I am going to do is state facts if I become aware of them. And I obviously won't do that unless I have some sort of proof. But this is proof. What I plan on sharing, if I decide to, or if it even comes my way, as sharing proof. I want to be clear about this. Sharing proof that investigations need to take place. There needs to be thorough looking into evidence that dictates that this merits further looking into, not evidence that says we're going to lock this person up and we've got proof that they're guilty of a crime. I'm not saying that. At least I haven't seen anything yet that tells me that. All I've seen is evidence that merits that there should be a thorough investigation taking place, and it has not happened yet.
Right. And the important thing to remember is that it says that every bit of research I found was that a negative exam does not mean that no assault took place.
Right.
I mean, because there are problems with timing. There are problems with how
there's other things.
Everything was done.
Right. And that's a case of SA, in a criminal case of SA, it's not just the kit that they rely on in order to get a conviction. So it's, is it a big help? Absolutely. If you can collect DNA doesn't lie, right? Especially if it's on a child, because as you stated earlier, there's no way a child can consent. So if they collect this stuff and it comes back positive that she has been in some way, shape, or form involved in any type of sexual activity, well, then that is damning evidence that this child has been assaulted. But the thing here, though, is that's not the only thing. You know, you do forensic interviews with the child. You do all kinds of you question the people that are, you look into the people that are being accused. You know, and obviously you don't want to arrest someone based on hearsay, but you've got to look into it. You've got to do a thorough investigation. And that's just one little part of it. The S.A.N.E exam is just one aspect of an investigation. It's not the entire investigation. So now I realize, I do realize that that this live stream is focused on the S.A.N.E exams, but I want to be very clear that we're going to explore a lot of other things too. But we're going to start doing things this way. We're going to start looking into things and questioning things that nobody else seems to be questioning. And now that Annie is no longer on the front lines of this publicly, that does not mean that she's not doing what she can behind the scenes to help the Longs. But I am going to do as much as I can. Annie said she was going to give me the help in order to do that too. So Annie will still be very much involved in what's going on with the Longs, so don't get discouraged about that. She's just got other things that she's got to worry about too. And so, but I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be fighting for the Longs as much as I possibly can. And honestly, until I know otherwise, this is the thing. Until I know otherwise, you can say that in my own way, I'm fighting for Kelly too, so far, because I don't know everything. And the way that I see this is her child. And if she has nothing to do with what's going on with Sophie, you know, we're going to get to the bottom of that. That's great. I hope that it's wrong. That she has nothing to do with anything. I hope that she's just a mother that loves her kid. I hope that that's the case. But make no mistake, the bottom line is I've got Michael talking to me and Courtney talking to me, but I don't have Kelly talking to me right now. And I would love to get all sides of everything in order to help clear things up. But what I'm mostly concerned about right now is not so much her involvement until I get around there, until we dig deep enough to where we find out that there's something that we, you know. But right now, what I want to know is why it's not being investigated. That is going to be my focus. I'm not here to trash anybody or take anyone's side. I am on the side of Sophie and any other victims that are living in the state of Texas or anywhere else where these issues are keeping them from getting the justice that they need, and keeping predators on the street and keeping traffickers on the street. So
this, when I found this out, this hurt me so badly for her, Will. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I don't know what just happened to SyronJAG, but again, I want to thank him for sharing all of his insight with us tonight and being so helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that, Summer Hodgson. But yeah, I just want to find out why this isn't being investigated the way that it should be. That's it. Anyways, guys, I love you very much, and I appreciate all you guys joining and listening. I appreciate all your insight in the chat, and we will do this again very soon, my friends.